Welcome back to Knock Talk, everybody, where we are shedding light on all things multifamily front office tech. In this episode, I'm extremely happy to introduce Lisa Tufano, Knock's VP of Strategic Accounts and NOI strategist. She's joining me today to talk about how multifamily tech drives NOI. I'm so happy to have you with me here, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you, Steve. It's good to be here with you.
So tell us, what does it mean to be an NOI strategist? I'm not sure that many in our audience will have those positions at their companies.
Fair enough. You know what? I pride myself on being someone very focused on optimizing revenue and finding the dollars and not ever leaving money on the table, whether it's professionally or in my personal life. And so to that end, I love to strategize with our customers and partners about how we can ensure that NOI is constantly optimized and make them more money.
That's excellent. And I'm sure your customers appreciate having a trusted advisor who's got all that good knowledge like you do. So what I'd kind of like to do, Lisa, to start things off is to just a high-level overview of Knock. Can you tell our listeners, just like a 30,000 foot, what Knock looks like and does?
Sure. So anyone who's unfamiliar with Knock, we are the multifamily industry's #1 CRM platform today. And we designed Knock to drive growth and NOI improvement on behalf of operators. So our intelligent front office solutions put really meaningful customer engagement first. And that then ensures that marketing, leasing, and operations teams have all the best tools and analytics to meet the needs of modern renters and the owners that are looking to maximize their NOI.
Okay. And in that strategic account role that you play at Knock, you've got some pretty close relationships with pretty big customers at Knock. Can you tell us what you see being some of Knock's best features that customers love the most?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely do offer a really comprehensive menu of tools and features that are redefining how leasing teams sell to modern renters today. And that alone is impressive. But really, I think we've become the leading CRM because Knock is super fun and easy to use. And ultimately, our customers love how much money we make for them.
That's great. I love it. What would you say sets Knock apart from other CRMs that are out there in the marketplace now?
Steve, I believe that we've become the leading CRM for multifamily because obviously Knock is fun and easy to use. But we also provide more ongoing training and support than any of our competitors. And that makes a big difference in performance outcomes ultimately. But again, I really think if I had to select one primary differentiator, it's how much money we can make for our customers compared to any of our competitors in the market today.
Let's kind of shift gears here now and move our conversation towards addressing market challenges. What are you hearing and seeing that are specific challenges in the multifamily market and what our partners are currently facing?
Boy, that's a long list, Steve. There's a lot going on right now in the world.
We call it Michigas, where I come from.
We call it something else in Italian that is not appropriate for this conversation. But no, to answer your question, let's start with the market challenge. So we've seen a lot of different data coming out about this, but ultimately we're hearing that vacancy is expected to peak in 2020. We're already seeing it in a lot of major metros, and rents are expected to bottom out in the first quarter of 2021. So that's going to be interesting, and hopefully it ends up not being that bad, but that's what they're predicting right now, and it's not really a great outlook for multifamily, certainly, but as everyone knows, our industry is nothing if not resilient, both from a performance and an operational standpoint. So, I think we're going to be okay in the long term, but there's certainly a lot of pressure on the market right now. There's definitely going to be budget challenges. You already see the conversations happening. I'm going to be on a panel here shortly to discuss some of the ways that we can maybe move things around in our budget or think about the way that we're allocating our dollars to be more strategic during a potential economic downturn. And unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic struck during a really inopportune time for us. It happened right as we're entering the busy leasing season, and it took everybody by surprise. And property managers were suddenly forced to start assessing costs and reallocate budgets and adopt new technology that would help to keep their employees and their prospects and their existing residents safe as we weather this together. And so, I think a lot of this was initially thought to be a short-term fix or just until things get back to normal. But I think, there may not be a back to normal. I think what we're going to see is a new normal. And I do think that this will ultimately lead to innovation and modernization of the way that we approach sales as a multifamily industry. And we've known for a long time that we needed to better address the needs and wants of modern consumers. I think there's been a lot of thought leadership and wonderful companies that have come out of that, like NOC, obviously, but we're going to have to accelerate those timelines and really take a hard look at our existing tech stacks and whether or not they're going to be able to stand the test of time, but certainly carry us through 2021 as we address the persisting pandemic. So at this point, I think it's time to move out of survival mentality and into thinking about things from a very deliberate strategic framework when we're thinking about technology and what we're going to pay for it and how it is valuable.
That's a great insight. Yeah, a lot of your conversation around, the forced technology, those decisions that were really kind of made for us, have caused, partners and operators out there to implement solutions, for the short term. But, to your point, this may be our new normal. So do you think that some of the solutions that, maybe NOC has brought to the table or other partners in the tech community in response to COVID, do you think that they're going to keep those things status quo in a post-COVID world? What's your take on that?
I certainly hope so. I think it's long overdue. So I'm excited to see the attention that's now being paid to technology in general in our industry. People are always making these self-deprecating comments about how multifamily is so slow to adopt new technology. And, again, this has been a very challenging time for everyone, but I think one silver lining is that it has really given us an opportunity to peel back the layers of what we've got going on and figure out, hopefully using really good data, what the best path forward is together. And that can only be good. That will continue to drive innovation. That'll continue to ensure that we improve the way that we engage with renters in this industry and with our existing residents and deliver a better product overall as an industry for people who are trying to find their home.
Yeah. And I think for years, customers have been telling us, this is how I want to shop. This is how I want to find a new home. Please join me. Yeah. And finally, we were at the table, right?
That's right.
Okay, so let's, I want to kind of segue into the whole conversation around NOI, because I think there's a whole lot of value for our listeners out there to understand how multifamily technology can really drive NOI and have an influence in business results. So let's talk about, the tech in multifamily. What do you think customers are looking for or needing at the present time?
I think that customers are truly looking for a technology that's easy to use, first and foremost. It's one of the things that I hear most in the last 3 years being here at NOC. That's a big gap, ease of use. I think the other big one is there's a lack of confidence in the existing data that people have available through their technology today. And they really want clean data that they can take action upon. Everyone always talks about data, but not everyone feels comfortable or confident about the data that they have today. So, I think that's going to be a big thing for people to focus on. And I think that will drive a lot of buying decisions going into the new year. And we don't talk about it as much, but customer experience is also a big one, both for leasing teams as well as the renter ultimately. And we just have to continue to innovate in a way that provides a really frictionless experience for our on-site teams, who are the sales engine of this industry, and to the prospects and existing residents that they serve.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, when I was on the operations side about, the truth in the data, and how one report from one place says one thing and the same report from another place says something different. And it's difficult because some of our audience are third-party managers who are dealing with asset managers and owners who question the data, and it puts them in an awkward position. So I can completely hear that story. And I love the ease of use. I think that's, from a customer experience or a user experience, I think that is really important to think about, is how is this going to impact that, how the leasing team works, how easy they are to get a hold of and respond to. And for the customer, do we meet them where they're at and give them the options that they need very seamlessly and simply, so that there is ease of use from a buying perspective as well. Do you think there are any blind spots though? I mean, because a CRM platform kind of handles a lot of stuff, but what are some of the blind spots that are out there?
Yeah, I have made some provocative comments on this before.
No.
I would say, there are definitely blind spots. I think, many operators are still catching up to the technology that's available today. Even before the pandemic hit, we were behind, right? And, it's more essential than ever to spend more time carefully onboarding new tools. But before you even onboard them, you've got to vet them. And I think there's room for improvement there as well. I think the temptation to go either full stack without considering a best-in-class alternative, or even,
maybe like just settling for status quo because you just don't have the bandwidth to
you articulated that really well. There are a lot of really good reasons why there are blind spots today, such as that. But obviously, we can't ignore it indefinitely. We've got to start driving meaningful value through technology, and there's just not a bull economy to support anything else. So we're all going to have to be a lot more reflective. NOC too, we've changed our roadmap or shifted priorities based on what's happened with the pandemic. And I think we all have to be as fluid as possible under the circumstances. But for the buying decisions themselves, I think the most important thing that someone can do is really ask themselves, how much is this going to affect my bottom line and NOI? Any buying decision, especially technology buying decision. But, is it going to drive down my cost per lead? Is it going to improve my leasing team performance and conversion rates? Will it increase our team efficiency? And can it replace, other tools from our budgets sheet? Like when you're looking at technology, those are all important questions to be asking yourself. And I think we should ask ourselves those questions even when we're looking at our existing full stack solution and platforms too. Everything needs probably to have a second glance at this point.
I like that you use the word reflective instead of reactive. There's a big difference between the two, isn't there?
Yeah, these are important decisions that have huge downstream impacts on a lot of areas of our business, whether it's marketing, sales, operations, et cetera. And, we live in an age where anything can be built with software. Any problem can potentially be solved by building software. But but you have to really identify what problems you're trying to solve and what your true goals are, and then ensure that your technology that you're buying and stacking together aligns with those goals. So, whatever that might look like for you, just make sure that you're adopting the technology that's focused on driving your NOI and other goals that are going to be most important during the pandemic and beyond.
So you mentioned, driving NOI, maybe increasing productivity.
Mm.
How does productivity actually translate into net operating income? Give us some ideas around what does that look like? Because there might be some folks in our audience who, might be asking the questions, but maybe don't clearly understand, where the big wins are from an NOI perspective. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts in regard to that?
It's a good question. If we're looking at how productivity specifically can translate into NOI, I think it's important to find solutions that might be able to do certain tasks on your behalf. So for example, a solution that can pre-qualify your traffic, that can identify and fast track your hottest leads into a tour without ever having to interface with a leasing agent, or a call center for that matter. I think it's really critical to get automation right. There's a lot of automation available in the marketplace. We brought to market a lot of that ourselves, and you should take advantage of that automation so that you can free up time for your leasing team to address existing residents, or so they have extra time to nurture and build confidence with prospects who might require a little extra hand-holding in the buying process.
Yeah.
I'd say that Knox automation in particular can do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of traditional sales engagement. And as a result, it ends up speeding up the sales journey for both prospects and residents. And I mentioned residents because a lot of CRM technology out there doesn't really address resident renewals and retention in a meaningful way. And we do, because we recognize that over half of an operator's revenue is typically going to come from renewals. So that's a pretty critical area to optimize for productivity.
I love that you focused on automation in a way that it's not scary, because I know some folks in our audience think automation means, there doesn't need to be a leasing consultant anymore. No, that's not true. There does. But what automation does is it gives them the time they need to do the things that matter to other pieces of the business versus just the prospecting piece of their work. So I love that perspective.
Yeah.
Can you give us a few examples that you've seen where technology has had a big impact on NOI?
Yeah, I mean, regardless of industry, technology can mitigate market, people, process, and legal risks. It also creates more resilient assets by driving operational efficiencies, or it should. That's the whole point of it. I think good technology should ultimately help your managers to make the data-driven decisions that need to be made to ensure that you're getting the most out of your NOI and out of your communities. I think in terms of like operational efficiency, that often takes the form of increased leasing team productivity and can be a major factor in driving NOI.
But what also I thought about, like the marketing spend and having a hand on, where your marketing dollars are going. And if you're not getting the return on investment that you need from those sources, you got to have a trusted advisor who can say, these are the ones that are working for you. These are the ones that are not. So where can we, reallocate funds to different channels that give you a better return?
That's so true. And there are some really great marketing consultants out there in the industry who you can hire to help out with that. But if you don't have the extra budget for that, then just being able to rely on your CRM stack would be a good alternative. When we look at things like how NOC, like the NOI that NOC delivers, one of the big metrics that we focus on improving for our customers is their conversion. And by that, I just mean that typically what we see in our data is that when a customer who came from a competitor switches over to NOC, they're typically seeing about a 20% improvement in their lead to lease conversion within their first 12 months on the NOC platform. So being able to measure where you are today and where you would like to be, and whether you partner with NOC or not, just being able to really drill down and understand those metrics are critical to your success long term. And I can't stress enough the importance of shopping around and being very thorough and thoughtful in the process.
Yep. And you touched on a lot of different aspects, and I really like that it's not all about the data, giving a property manager, the knowledge that they need in terms of performance, so that when they get on a call with an owner, they can speak to the business and they're not taken by surprise. And I think that has a huge win. Well, gosh, Lisa, this has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate your insight. You're very thoughtful in your approach to, being that trusted advisor for your customers. And I think our listeners will really appreciate that. To kind of wrap things up, I'd just like to kind of hear from you, what do you think that multifamily should be excited about when it comes to the future of technology?
So when the pandemic first broke, we weren't really sure how quickly the industry would be able to adapt. And historically, we've been slow to adapt new technology. But what I've seen has shown me that everyone's super fired up and very engaged in working together and having all the conversations that are needed for the multifamily space to weather this successfully together. And the cool thing here at NOC is that we have over 30 engineers and data scientists who are dedicated to leading the charge in front office intelligence and technology. So we're ready to rock and roll. We feel like we were built for this moment, and we just want to help in any way that we can, whether it's helping you to grow your business or making life easier, but still maintaining business continuity for your on-site teams who are going through a lot right now and maybe struggling to keep up their leasing velocity and be there the way that they would normally want to be, while also maintaining their own safety.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I think I'm most excited about the tipping point that we've hit as an industry, where these conversations are finally happening. And I think it's going to be awesome for us long term. We're all going to grow together.
That's awesome. I love it. Thanks so much for your perspective. I've enjoyed spending this time with you. And we will see you all on our next Knock Talk. Take care.
Thanks, Steve.